Today we journey to visit Pastor Rob McClure. Rob and I were in the same youth group during a significant move of God. Listen in as you hear how God built a bridge for Rob using great pastors Robert Pavido, Dale Lemons, Jim McNabb, and others to take him from a BMX racer to a leading pastor in Oklahoma. Today we are riding in a red Honda Accord. When I first met Rob in the 80s, he drove a red Honda. Back in the day, our youth group met in an upper room and we experienced Acts 2. So today we are back in one Accord. Let's slow down and catch up. Let's do some drive time. Rob,
What's up, Bishop?
fancy meeting you here.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
All right. Open for lunch?
Sure, yeah.
Hey, let's go for a drive.
All right, let's go.
Okay, Rob, lead pastor of the great church, The Bridge. Man, we go back a long way.
Yeah, we do.
We have a lot of miles in the rear view mirror. I hope we have just as many looking at us in the windshield.
Yeah.
So how in the world does a guy from Bartlesville, America, both of us, get all the way to lead pastor of The Bridge? Do we have time to tell the whole story?
Must have done something wrong. Yeah. I mean, you know, were you born in Bartlesville, weren't you? Or
I was
were you?
born in Oklahoma City,
Okay.
but my family, I was
Okay.
just raised in Bartlesville, yes.
I was born in Sepulpa. Somehow I survived that hospital. And no, we lived there till like 6. And I actually lived in Texas one year, in Abilene, Texas. I don't know if you knew that or not.
God delivered you.
Got moved to Bartlesville in 2nd grade, and went to Hoover, and then got to go to Madison.
It was your dad's job that moved you to
Yeah,
Bartlesville?
he worked for Retta Pump,
Yep.
which was an oil company. You had Phillips, then you had Retta Pump.
Yep.
And he, but back in those days, that went to 2 high schools, at Sooner High School, and so Hoover, Madison, and Sooner were all in the same area. So growing up, you got to think, hey, one of these days I want to move up there. Finally got up there, and after my sophomore year, they combined the schools, and I had to go to Call High.
That's right.
Yeah, and then but I was raised in church. I was raised free holiness. My grandpa was a free holiness preacher. Probably why we ate chicken all the time, because that's how he got paid, was chicken and eggs and stuff. And so anyway, but just through life, just kind of, I was saved when I was a kid, but through junior high and high school, I wasn't living for God at all, and kept getting in trouble and stuff. So finally, around right before my senior year of high school, my best friend moved away. That was the guy I kind of did bad things with, and ended up, but John Bailey, all those guys, Jeff Cawthon and all them. Tom Green was the youth pastor at Tuxedo.
Yep.
And we would go over there to the Oasis house and play games, Christian game room thing.
Okay, so was the Oasis House the first youth center in Oklahoma? Tom Green
I would
built the first
as
youth
far as I
center?
know.
As far as I know, too.
But yeah, it's just an old house. What was it? Was it a house or was it a veterinary
Like a little,
clinic?
yeah,
or
it's like a
something?
little
I don't know.
building. Yeah.
But they had games and stuff, and then Christian band would play all the time, and that was the band Bailey and Pratt and all those guys were in. And
And they had you join the band.
well, yeah, John would, my family owned that recreation area as a water slide and a go-kart track and BMX track and all that stuff. And so I worked there every day after school. And John Bailey would come over all the time and witness to me and stuff. And I knew a lot about the Bible. I just wasn't living for God, And I'd gotten in trouble a couple times just with the law, but it was always kind of just weird circumstances. It wasn't like I was doing something wrong. I just happened to be with a group or something. My dad was real concerned about me, and my mom too and stuff. And so just finally it kind of came to a head where I just knew I needed to change my life. I actually went to a Judas Priest concert with a bunch of guys, and they're
on the Bill Gaither Homecoming.
They
videos,
are on one of those videos. Yeah, I think of that, breaking the law. Anyway, but in that whole deal, I remember riding that concert with those guys, and they were all guys that drug addicts, and sounds bad, but I just remember sitting in there looking at that group of guys thinking, this is not the future I want for my life, because you could tell where they were going to go with the rest of their life. And I just thought, I need to make a change in my life. John was witnessing to me. Like I said, my friend Kevin moved away, and I just thought, I need to make a change. And so literally one day there in my bedroom, I remember just kneeling by the side of my bed, getting saved. And I remembered as a kid the peace I had as a Christian, and I wanted that again when I got saved. And I went to church like the next Sunday, and they were doing a drama or something at our church, and I don't know, there was just something about it that I remember John and these guys were all talking to me about their youth group, and I was always raised in a youth group that it was 6 or 7 of us kids, in a back room somewhere. And so finally, I just asked my dad, I said, would you mind, could I go check out First Assembly? And I think I went over there. I don't know if I went on a Wednesday or a Sunday first. I know I went on a Sunday with my dad, and he went with me. But then on Wednesday night, I walked in the youth room. There were 70 kids, and it was Dale. And, we had that big pit group of couches. And I don't remember if we did any. I don't know if they did worship. It seemed like Dale just talked. I don't really know.
He just sat on a desk
and
talked. That's where our paths first crossed.
I know.
You showed up.
Yeah. And
I'm a lot younger than you, Robbie.
Yeah, I'm 56.
Not really, just a few years. Yeah. But no, I remember you coming, and we're in a red Honda here to highlight, because you drove, I still remember, a Honda red CRV.
CRX. Yeah,
CRX.
The first year they came out with those.
CRX.
1984. Yeah. I got it.
And here on this side, when I rode with you, there was a sticker that said, was it radically saved?
I think it said God rules.
God rules. That's right. I remember the sticker. God rules.
Yeah. Yeah. And but I mean, I was hooked, partly because there was a really pretty blonde there, but also partly because I'd never seen so many students at a church in my life. And then ended up going to D Camp that summer. Back then, D Camp was the first camp of the summer, and on there I got baptized with the Holy Spirit on a Wednesday night, and Thursday morning sitting in a testimony service. Tom was leading it. That was actually Tom's first camp, if I remember right.
Is that right?
He'd become the DYD at that time, or back then it was a DCAP.
Mm-hmm.
And in that testimony service, I was just sitting there, and I felt the Lord just hit me like a ton of bricks and say, stand up, tell him you're called to preach. And I'm like, what? But I mean, it was instant. God changed my heart. I remember telling my mom, I would never be a preacher. That's the dumbest job in the world. And then it was just like, in that moment, that's all I've ever wanted to do since then. But I came home almost every weekend because Brother Pavado started teaching the college class. And I don't know if you were in that yet or not.
I was too young.
But man, he would just open the table and he'd lay out a Vine's Concordance and a Strong Concordance and a bunch of different translations of the Bible. And this Brother Pavado, who's a preacher, getting ready to preach a sermon, and he would sit with us college guys and just walk through Colossians.
What a gift.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
He was a great pastor.
He was. He taught me how to study the Bible.
Mm-hmm. I still remember sermons as a kid that Robert Pavado was preaching.
He was great. Yeah, we even made that silly kind of punk rock Christian newspaper. I don't know what you would call it. I remember I always had pieces from your pastoral pal, and we talk about a sermon of his, and then we had record reviews, and it was funny. But anyway.
But you and I have talked, Rob. So you were in high school when I met you. I was in middle school, and I didn't know you before that. When you came in, you were on fire for God, Rob. And, as a middle school guy watching, you're really the first person that I saw that was sold out, just on the offense. No one's perfect, but I just saw this passion and this fire inside of you. And we had Dale and Dina as our youth pastors. They just loved on us.
Yeah.
But it was a significant moment. God was moving. How would you describe that little season spiritually?
It was just one of those deals, and I've tried to recreate it 100 times. I haven't been able to. It was just a sovereign thing. I remember going to Dale and Dina's, would have Bible studies over there. And then I remember, just for some reason, us guys started doing Bible studies. We started one night a week, and it ended up being 2 or 3 nights a week. And I remember we would listen to like John MacArthur CDs on why the Holy Spirit, or it wouldn't be CDs back then, but John MacArthur sermons, records,
cassettes,
on why the Holy Spirit's not, has ceased.
Right.
And we would dig in our Bibles and try to figure out why he was wrong, and just we would kind of listen to a sermon and then kind of figure some things out and walk through the Bible together. And then it kind of developed into either Friday nights or Saturday nights. We'd meet up at the church and have a prayer meeting.
Man, and we had some prayer meetings.
They would go for 2 or 3 hours.
It was unbelievable. Formative in my journey.
And everybody would come. And There were moments like I remember one night when I came home from CBC, I brought a couple guys with me from CBC, and I had a friend named Todd there, and he was sitting back in the back praying, and me and a couple other guys were down front, and I just felt led to get up and go pray for him, and I grabbed two other guys that were with me that came home that weekend, and we go back to pray for Todd, and he just starts weeping, and we're like, what's going on, man, when we got done? And he said, I was just sitting here telling God that if he was real, he needed to have Robbie come back here with, I think it was Alex and whoever else it was, and those were the guys that came back there, and I was like learning how to hear the voice of God,
Little known fact, so Rob was a BMX star in a previous lifetime too. Talk about that.
I got into it in 8th grade with a couple guys that I was hanging out with, and got into it a lot. My dad had always had a dream of having his own business, and then we leased some land to do that BMX track there in Bartlesville, and just had that track that we ran for years. I raced in Oklahoma and Arkansas and Texas and Missouri and a little bit everywhere. We traveled all over and raced. And I did that probably up until I went to college, and it was fun. It was just something to do.
Had a track right there
at the track there that we were. That's how it started.
Okay, so you go off to CBC and you fall in love with the amazing Sherry. Tell us how you two connected.
My wife graduated from Baptist Bible College, of all things.
Which was arch rivals.
I think
CBC.
I think we're in their cult book, She actually went to a high school that taught you're demon possessed if you speak in tongues.
Is that right?
Yeah, they were that strict about it. And
which is nowhere in the Bible.
Right. Yeah, so she graduates. She's a single girl in the Baptist church, so you can't do ministry because you're a woman. And so she ends up she has a good job working for a dentist and stays there in town, lives above Rick and Beth Burchell, Heaven's Harmony.
Yes,
remember them?
I didn't realize that.
And started going to Bible studies with them, hanging out with them and stuff. And then she ends up over at our school, that first day of school, when they had a picnic on the lawn.
Oh, yeah.
And I sit out on a blanket, she's sitting there, and
is that where you met?
Yeah.
Really?
There's a picture. I still have a picture from that day of that blanket and all of us sitting there. It was in the yearbook. Anyway, hang out with her and find out, and then we end up all that night over at her house. Turn right the light. Over at her house, just having a Christian kids party thing over there that night, playing games and stuff. And I'm flirting with her, and she's kind of flirting with me, and we became friends for about a year. She starts going to church with us at Calvary Temple, and my senior year I come back to school, and we just kind of hit it off. It's like we finally realized we liked each other, and even though we'd been friends all this time, park any one of these, and that year actually she asked me out for Spinster Spree.
Really?
Yeah.
I always do this, Rob. I always park in the takeout
or dine in.
Or dine in.
So basically, if you're here for any reason, you can park here.
Then I'm parking. This is the Joel Osteen parking place. It's the favor of God right here.
It is a favor. The fog is rolling in. Ask Lynn Wheeler too.
Okay, so you guys meet. You realize you're crushing.
So we end up that year dating all that year, and I asked her to marry me in January. So we did the old Bible college thing. You graduate at the beginning of May, get married at the end of May, and the first week of June started at Salisaw First as youth pastor.
And she was from Michigan.
She was from Michigan.
So you brought her to Oklahoma.
Yeah. I called her dad to ask for her hand in marriage. And back then, CBC didn't have your own phone.
Oh,
so the phone was payphone in the lobby.
Yes.
And so I remember calling her dad and saying, I want to ask you for Sherry's hand in marriage. And he says, well, and about that time, a group of kids come through the room, and they're all talking aloud, and he's talking to me, and I'm like, I can't hear what he's saying. I don't know what he's saying. And as soon as they get done walking out of the room, I hear him say, yeah, we kind of thought she'd marry a Baptist, and he just stops, and I'm like, did he say yes or no? I didn't know which it was. So I just took a chance and asked her. Anyway, the rest is history.
We're very thankful.
Yeah.
Now let's go eat chicken.
All right, I'm good.